The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Welcome to Moments of Strength. I'm your host, Mary Kaufman. In this show, we dive deep into the lives of mothers and their unique journeys of parenting and personal growth. From juggling family dynamics to personal passions and career ambitions, we'll talk about challenges, triumphs, and pivotal moments that shape their lives, emphasizing the resilience and strength that comes with motherhood. Thank you for joining us. Today's guest is Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So we've known each other a little bit over the last, I don't know,
We've
maybe
crossed
like
a lot
10.
of paths.
We have.
So we know similar people and
Been in a lot of the same rooms, which is good, but never really had an opportunity to sit down and sort of get to know each other. So this is great to do this for you and I, and for everyone else to get to know you as well. So in the next hour, I think we'll talk a little bit about who you are. You can introduce yourself and talk about however much of that you would like to. And the show really is geared at parenting and personal growth for moms. So I'd love to talk about what you're involved in, work-wise and personally, and what some of those challenges have been and how you've moved through those. And then there may be a question or two in there about different challenges that you've had, because the aim of the show really is to help women through life experiences and stories of others. I think people can be told a lot of things about how to do things, but if they have examples, that's very helpful. So we'll talk about that. And then before we close out, give you an opportunity to offer anything else you think might be valuable that we may not have touched on.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Okay, so welcome. So let's start out, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been living in Sun Prairie for about 23 years with my husband, Kyle. We have two kids, Melanie, who's 21, and Ben, who's 19. Okay. Before that, we lived in a lot of different places. We were in college, not always together. Kyle was touring for his job, and then I grew up actually in northern Wisconsin before I went off to college in Manitowoc, Valders area, and left the small dairy farm that I was on to see the world. So that kind of shoots you all the way back to my past. But I spent most of my life in Wisconsin.
Okay. And when you say you went off into the world, did you travel like globally or just around the nation? Or?
So I was really fortunate in college. I went to school to study music, and I do have my degree in vocal performance, but I also got a finance degree. I kind of promised my family that if I was going to go into music, I was going to do something that was worthwhile too.
Yes,
many years ago. So, and I'm really glad that I did, of course, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, more later. But so being in music and meeting the people that I did, I was fortunate to travel all over the world. I went to Korea, went to Europe, went to different things to sing, and then some just to explore. So
that's an amazing experience. I want to just talk about that a little bit. Everybody doesn't have that experience. Growing up, my dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up as an Air Force brat and moved all over the world too. And I really can now, as an adult, pinpoint things from those experiences that have absolutely shaped who I am, how I see the world. Are there things that you think, or maybe that you recognize now, that help shape who you are from being able to explore all those different areas of the world?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to my very first experience. I was in Korea. I was 21 years old, and we were on a tour all over southern the southern part of Korea. And this was before the internet and cell phones, of course, and all of that. And we had a translator that walked around with us because they didn't have Google Translate or anything like that to help you. So we had a translator that traveled with us, and I had longer hair even than I do now. It was down to my waist. And every single town that I went into, the boys and girls, young and old, would ask to come up and touch my hair. Can we please touch your hair? They felt it was like a religious experience to them. It was a like they were ascending into a different spiritual place, and I found it so strange at first. Like, why do they want to touch my hair? I have seen all kinds of blonde people, but they had never seen anybody with blonde hair and long blonde hair like mine. And you know, for them, they had no exposure to really TV or the internet or anything like that. So it really gave me an instant perspective as to how something that might seem like every day to me is not the case for other people, and that it's really important to understand other people's perspectives and what they're experiencing. It was a real epiphany for me. Yeah.
That's such a great example of understanding someone else's perspective. And you know, when my kids were little, I used to say to them, you know, if maybe they had an altercation with one of their siblings, and say, "Don't you see how she feels?" They don't. No. But I didn't really know, and I studied psychology and all of this, but as a personal experience as a mother, I wanted them to see the other perspective. They really can't do that. They're just learning to do that, you know, as to get out of single digits, really to put themselves in another person's shoes. And then, even as you start to develop that, you might be 21 when it hits you so hard that the world doesn't just operate through the lens that you see. And so that's a great story. And not only an experience for them, but an experience for you too.
Yeah.
And so being able to travel. And so when you were traveling, were you singing? You said vocal? Yeah,
I was singing at that time. Other times I've traveled, my husband's been singing, and we are so fortunate. When the kids were young, we took them with us very often, and they got to see different cultures and how different people live, and you know, ask questions. Like when we were in Japan, and the bathrooms are so different, and of course your kids are little and they hone in and like, why do they squat and go to the bathroom in a hole in the ground? But they get to see different ways people live, and they understand that not the way we live, like not everything about the way we live is necessarily the best way, and to glean different things from different cultures and explore different things, and just really gain an understanding of the world around us, and tolerance. It's just a beautiful thing, and I wish that every kid could have that exposure. And now with the internet, we do somewhat,
Somewhat, yep. And then, through our experiences, being able to teach the kids to look for that just in their immediate surroundings. If you can't go somewhere else, be curious about the things that are around you and curious about the people that are around you. It's human nature to have an immediate judgment when you see someone that is built in, but then to recognize that and turn that to curiosity maybe about the people who are around you. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I feel fortunate to have had similar experiences growing up too, and I think that is just expands your mind. It expands how you see the world. So yeah. So you grew up on a dairy farm?
Well, my grandparents had it. So my mom was divorced when I was 4.
Okay.
And living, when she divorced my dad, we were in Illinois, but we moved back up here to Wisconsin, and we lived with my grandparents for a little bit till my mom could get on her own. Okay. And being a single parent with 2 kids, a divorced Catholic in the early 70s, she had it very hard. She had it very hard, and she worked very hard. She was a nurse, but in the Navy. But before she couldn't get a job nursing.
Okay.
And so she worked in a factory building ice machines, and with lots of men that didn't want her there, and sabotaged her any way that they could. And my family was not real supportive of her either, because she got divorced. So there were a lot of nights that I listened to her cry. It chokes me up still. To have something like this for her would have been really wonderful.
I was just thinking that would have been great to interview.
So I have a lot of respect for her, a lot of respect for her. She worked very hard, and I learned a lot from her too.
And you had siblings?
I had a sister.
Okay.
I have actually a lot of siblings, but it's kind of a he, hers, or she, his, and hers, or whatever kind of setup. But so I have some stepbrothers and half brothers, but they're all my brothers. I'm all very close to them. Yeah.
Right. So that was clearly, I mean, even with the emotion, you understand that watching that and being part of that with your mom really shapes, again, who you are. And this is something, you know, when I talk to kids, even it's the things that are imposed on you, the things you don't choose even as a child, but also the things you do choose when you're young that really shape and affect who you are and the choices you make as you grow up too. So, you know, watching your mom go through that, do you think that had an effect on how you pursue work, or, you know, how the directions that you took in your life too?
Absolutely. It definitely influenced how I chose my partner in life. And, you know, nothing against my dad. I love my dad. It just didn't work out with my mom. But it definitely made me very aware of how to choose my partner, what was important, what aspects needed to be there. And so I didn't get married till I was 29 years old. And Kyle and I dated for 5 years before we got married, and we just really, we had a lot of conversations about, you know, this is what I expect and this is what he expects, and can we meet in the middle, or, you know, or whatever, you know, and it was really a great experience, and we have a very strong relationship that I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have him in my life.
And it's interesting because the work he does, you know, because he travels for his job, and everyone isn't built to be in a relationship where, you know, somebody travels a lot and one person is home a lot. And having those conversations, you know, in dating for 5 years and having those conversations leading up to that can help set the stage for, you know, if then. So if you get a job where you have to travel a lot, how are we going to manage that? And I think a lot of times that those conversations don't happen. You know, people are caught up in the emotion of how they feel about a person and then go down that road. So do you want to talk a little bit about what he does? And I mean, you've been married now for
20, we've been together 30 plus years, but married 25.
Okay, so yes.
And I always knew Kyle was going to be an amazing singer long before he did. There's something about his personality, his acting ability, and of course his voice that was just really beautiful. And although he had doubts in himself, I just knew. I don't know how to explain it. And so when we would have conversations about, like, how many kids do you want to have, and you know, those things when you are getting ready to get married, I would always say, well, I know you're going to be traveling a lot, so you know, I'm okay with that. Like, seeing how my mom was able to handle, you know, being a one-parent person, which is not ideal for that person necessarily all the time, but you can make it work if you have a good support system around you.
Right.
And so I knew that I could make it work with Kyle if I had a good support system around me, and it was absolutely worth it. Kyle, even though he's gone, you know, 9-10 months out of the year traveling, singing opera, he is very much engaged with the family every day. Long before FaceTime was involved, we found ways to communicate every day. Whether it was Skype, he would write the kids letters, he would hide things for them to find around the house. You know, okay, today is Thursday, that means Daddy hid something in the basement for you to find, or whatever. You know, so he would find ways all the time to engage with the kids, even though he knew that he couldn't be there. And so that was, you know, you find those ways to support each other even when you cannot physically be together, and that was really important. That's what really helped not only bond our relationship, but his relationship with the kids as well.
Well, those things, and I don't know that people know this, but the smallest things can be the biggest supports. So even something like, I love that, you know, something's hid in the house on a Thursday. Well, it's something to look forward to. The kids probably at those ages don't know time. So it's just this, you know, surprise that comes out of the blue. So he's present to them all the time, even if, you know, he's not physically present. And I think just taking the time to do that shows support to you, is connected to the kids, and probably doesn't take that long to orchestrate, especially if you have a routine of doing it. And
yeah, it was, and I would record things for him to see that we did as a, you know, the three of us did together during the day. And I also watched kids to earn extra money while he was on the road. So sometimes we'd have more kids and just the insanity of it all, you know. And we'd take those videos, and then when he got home, we'd watch them together, like almost like movies and popcorn, and just have fun talking about the things that he had missed and that he couldn't be a part of, but that he was almost like there. So there are ways to be connected when you can't be together. You just have to work hard at it. And it was a lot of extra work for me, but it was mentally fulfilling on the days that were really, really hard with him being gone and trying to just get everything done.
And there are days like that.
Yeah,
there are days like that even when the support person is there, you know.
Yeah, I always tell the story. So my son Ben, who is a very big man now, he was almost 11 pounds when he was born, so I had to have a C-section. Well, you know, the disclaimer they give you is don't lift everything over 10 pounds after you have a C-section. Well,
sorry, Ben.
Sorry, I can't even lift you, but I did anyway. And then I had Melanie, who was 2 years old, and then Kyle, when he got home from a gig, had to have knee surgery. So like our Christmas, Ben was 3 months old, Melanie was a 2-year-old. Kyle had knee surgery, and then because everybody we couldn't go other places for Christmas, everybody decided to come to our house for Christmas. And so I had 10 people staying in our house. And I always go back to that time, and I'm like, how did I do that? Because not only did all that happen, but they all got the stomach flu, except me.
Why wouldn't they?
It's just like,
why not throw that on there?
It was insane. And so whenever things got rough, I'd go back, well, you know what? I made it through that. So
compare it to that. It's all relative. Yeah.
This is all so easy.
Yeah, the things you find yourself doing too after, well, before kids, but also after kids, is you can't imagine how that came to be. And then somehow you make it through. That's a lot of what I like to talk about too, is where do we go inside to make it through something like that? And I think many moms make it through, and some just, you know, don't have the inner strength to handle something like that. But what is that part of us that, I don't know, holds the 11-pound baby? I've had several C-sections as well. Just hold the baby. You know, the 2-year-old needs something. You know, your husband had knee surgery, so you also have to help. Like, how do we do that? It's crazy when you go back and talk about it, but we all have that thing in us, and it's more developed in some people, and sometimes because of what they're subjected to. I think some people naturally have more of that and pursue those things. But yeah, so I've asked the other guests too, you know, where is that place that you go? Do you even know where that place is that you go, or what do you think about, or how do you push through something that is so difficult like that?
For me, it's really tied to music. Music has been an impetus and a soul-touching, mountain-moving thing in my life since I can't even remember. I remember singing "You Light Up My Life" by Debbie Boone to my grandparents, you know, and just thinking like, I've just feeling like my heart and my chest and my soul was opening up, and like it was I was speaking to another, like, and I know that probably sounds corny to a lot of people, but that's absolutely what music does for me, and I think it does it for a lot of people. And either we don't realize it, or we don't talk about it, or we don't you know. And it doesn't have to be, like, for me it's classical music and opera. It really speaks to me, but for some people it's Broadway, and some people it's country, and some people it's rap, and who cares what kind of music it is as long as it speaks to you, and it really helps heal for me what I'm stressed out about, or I'll throw in some music and I'll just really close my eyes and think about, you know, what the character's talking about and what they're feeling. And, you know, there's a reason why music is in every part of our everyday lives, whether it's weddings or funerals or you name it, you know, having a barbecue, we got to have music. And there's a reason. It speaks to our soul absolutely. And I would recommend anybody that's having a bad day to seriously sit down with some headphones on or earbuds, put in your favorite song, and take 5 minutes to hear it and really feel the music and play it 4, 5, 6 times over until maybe you're crying or you're laughing or whatever, just to let out whatever is bothering you. And then, that's what I do, you know, and then I feel so much better. It's almost like, you know, for some people it's exercising too, like they'll get on their bike and they'll like bike 5 miles, and it's those endorphins that all of a sudden, and for me that's music, and it just really takes me to another place.
That's interesting. And, you know, as you're talking, that is so true, I think, for so many people. And even, you know, I mean, I love to do that too. And then you purposely choose a song that you know is going to trigger whatever that is you're not letting out. And driving and singing, you know, because you're alone, it's like therapeutic.
Yes,
really.
Absolutely.
Really. And sometimes, you know, just singing, I can't be alone in this, but singing very loud in your vehicle, but then the song hits a word or a note or something that almost you have to stop. Like, otherwise you will start crying or whatever. So that is so true, I think. And then it also brings us together. Like you said, the barbecue, you know, it's for community. We have concerts at the high schools and the middle schools, and where the kids learn the music, and then we go. And even though it's not great, you know, they're just learning on their instruments, everybody's there just as this community and all brought together by that. So,
you know, whenever you mix the arts, the more you layer them, the more power there is. And I don't know, this is just something I've noticed. So Kyle does opera, and very often I'll go and I'll see his shows, and they'll be staged in their normal manner. They're singing the same, you know, opera I've seen two or three times. But this time, the director has decided, I'm going to add some ballet into it. And these ballet characters are going to be the devil's minions, and they're going to dance around the stage. And I'm going to add a children's choir, and they're going to be God singing in the background. So he's layering she's layering all these things. And it has really shown me that when you when you watch a movie, it's so much better when there's great music with it.
For sure.
And so when you're layering these arts, it brings it to a whole nother level in how you experience it. And I would really urge anyone too, like if you haven't tried any other arts, you've never experienced any of them, just to try them. You might not like them, but you might really like them, and you might really love combining them with something else that you do, and finding a new outlet for yourself, for whether it's stress relief or meditation or whatever.
Yeah, when you think about going into an art gallery, it's not silent always.
And it's a lot about lighting too. Lighting and the mood and the colors around you. They don't just slap everything up on specific. There's a whole point to how they do things. Yeah.
I noticed when I was at my sister's the last time that they just had music playing while they were making dinner. And it was such a nice add to, you know, the family had all gathered, and I think they do that every night when they make dinner, just turn the whatever song on. And so I just thought that was such a nice atmosphere versus just the quiet when you compare it. So
in our house we have, when the kids were little, when they got to be teenagers and older, they didn't want to do it so much.
Yeah.
We'd have fun Fridays where they would get to pick a song, and then we'd have Mondays, you know, okay, something to like really motivate us through the week, and we would dance around the kitchen and like get ready for the week kind of thing. And I really miss those days.
Yeah.
But they'll still, we'll bring up, oh, remember this song? Oh yeah, we played on Fun Fridays, and they still have that memory and everything, even though they would dance around the kitchen now with me.
They need to come home and do that.
Right, well, a couple more days, or weeks, Thanksgiving, yeah.
Hey, you can fire up the old songs when we get home. If you're dancing already, maybe they'll join in. Yeah. So now both are out, because Ben, he just left this fall, right?
Yeah, Ben, just graduated this past May, and then he's off. He's at Madison College playing baseball, so he's still close by. And I thought I'd see him more than I actually am. But he's like a fish in water. He's flourishing and just having so much fun, and I'm so happy for him.
I feel the same way about my daughter who left too. I'm happy for her, and I also wish just come back and live here. It's like such a it's so hard. I talked about this with Kristen when she came and was on the show too. But just that you really worked your whole life as a mom to get them to a point so they can live on their own. This is what we do, and prepare them and have all those moments over all those years where you're just like, okay, I think they'll be able to support themselves, or whatever, take the right classes and be involved in the right extracurricular things. And then they leave and it's like, well, what did I do that for? Like, I don't want them to go, I want them to be here. But so that's challenging. And especially this, and you've experienced that because your daughter already had done that, but it's just this first little bit of transition where you're sort of finding that new normal with them having their own lives, and you're really just not hovering over anymore, having daily interactions, at least in person. That's so hard.
Yeah, I miss the conversations with both my kids, and of course my husband, I talk to him every day, but with my kids it was always their curiosity and their experiences, how they're perceiving things. They'll see something at school or they'll see something on the news, and it was just so engaging to talk to them about how they're viewing things, again, their perception of things, and that's what I miss are those conversations every day.
I agree. And I mean, I still have kids at home, but we're doing those same things. It's the drive to and from school, and what is the rundown? How do they talk about their day? What's the first thing that comes out of their mouth? So in rank order, kind of what's weighing the heaviest. What's happening in middle school? When will this be over? It's just
rough years.
I think of all of it, middle school is the roughest.
Absolutely. Boys and girls, doesn't even matter.
Can't escape it.
No.
And I do remember being in middle school, and I do remember, some things were rough, but man, just, I don't know.
I think it's harder for kids nowadays. I mean, I remember it being rough I actually don't know how old you are, but I'm 54.
51.
Okay, yeah, so about the same. But there was, for me, with my kids, the big struggle in middle school was the internet and phones. And it was just kind of becoming part of the culture for kids to have phones when they were in middle school. And I really held firm, you're not having a phone till you're 15. There's no need for it. But then, coaches, because they were in different sports, would say, well, we'll text all the kids what they need to know. And I'm like, well, my kids don't have a phone. Well, and then they would have Instagram chat rooms or whatever they're called, and they would, my kids would miss out on pizza parties or whatever they were doing to get the team together because we didn't know about it. And then my kids would be crying, see, if I'd had a phone. And then I'm like, okay, and I when my daughter turned 14, I gave in. We got a phone for her to have. And I noticed a change very quickly in what she cared about physically, outwardly, and it was kind of an epiphany to me that I really needed to focus on how much time my kids were on those phones or on any type of social media. And I really stood firm with that. There were some hiccups along the road, things my kids, accidentally saw, Five Nights at Freddy's thing that traumatized my son for 6 months or whatever. He couldn't sleep, and, but
listen, it
laugh about it now.
us too, because then we have to deal with it. Then we have to know what it is, and then we have to be able to manage that. And
right. It's stressful, and if I were to give any advice to parents, not that I have any right to give anyone advice, but I would just say stand firm when it comes to social media, and don't have it in your life unless you have to for your kids, because my kids, they actually thank me now. And it was just
Probably
recently, it's in
saved
the last
them.
6 months.
Yeah.
They actually thank me now that I didn't, you know, just let them go hog wild with whatever. But so well, I guess you just have to find what works for a family, and that's what worked for ours, and I'm glad I did it.
I agree with you that, you know, having access to the entire world in your hand is a lot of responsibility, and it imposes a lot of obligation and burden, I think. And my kids have phones. My son doesn't. He's in 5th grade. But he is, you know, he plays Fortnite, and so he is in tune with technology, and he understands it, and he has an iPad and all of that. But I think, you know, well, we talked about our age. It's different for us, and everybody who is all grown up with a phone and all of that, this sounds different to them. But as parents, we all have different struggles. You know, if you were a parent, now phones have been forever. So if you're a new parent and you're in your 20s, you've always been digitally connected, and you will have different challenges than what we have as parents, you know, in our 50s, because we know what it was like to not have them, and there's something to compare there. That might sound like we're old or something, and we are to a certain degree. I'm not gonna deny that, but being able to see. So we talked about perspective, and our perspective is, listen, like, the amount of time you're living in a virtual world, like, you are not living. You are essentially, it's like voyeur, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're observing,
you want to see,
world,
you're watching someone else live. So, and I'm not going to act like I don't look at TikTok. I think there are some hilarious things on there, but you can get sucked in forever on there and just watch everyone else live, and there goes a day of your life. So, you know, in some of the research that I've done over the years, you know, just with my degrees and stuff, I did look into, is screen time bad for your kids, essentially was what I was going after. And a lot of what I found was, it's not necessarily that the screen time is bad. It's what is being watched, of course, that sounds logical. And then where does the child go with the information that they've just ingested? So is there a grown-up around that they can bounce that information off of? Because a lot of times, you know, kids are left just to free rein on whatever they see, and nobody's asking them, you know, what did you look at? And some of those conversations can be uncomfortable.
Or they're turning to their friends to get an explanation, kind of like when we did when the internet didn't exist, and we would ask our girlfriends, like, you know, something, you know, personal, like, does this happen to you? Or like, and they would give you incorrect information.
Because they also were not informed.
Exactly. Yeah, so yeah, it can snowball for sure.
Yeah, so just in talking about parenting, it's, you know, trying to have that open communication, which a lot of times people are uncomfortable talking about uncomfortable things. But, you know, your kids will appreciate it if you are less uncomfortable, even if you're faking that, you know, just to be that resource for them so that they are getting the correct information. And maybe you don't even know. And guess what? Maybe you have to go on the internet to get the correct information, but at least they're not just out there just ingesting all of this stimulation and all of this sometimes nonsense, and having nowhere to put that or no one to discuss that with.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the single hardest things in parenting currently, is managing to the technology. And I'm pro technology. I'm very interested in it. I use it. But developing minds, you know, elementary, middle school, like, kids' brains are just exploding with growth, and what goes in them matters. And so managing to that and still allowing your kids to take part in being social and all of that, I think that is one of the hardest things in parenting.
That, and I think what's super hard is is believing in yourself. Believing, like, so with Kyle's job, I chose to stay at home, you know, with the kids when they were younger. And when I first moved to Sun Prairie, I didn't know anybody, and I really wanted to get involved in the community and do different things and be a part of where my kids are going to be growing up. And it was really hard for me when I would go to things and so-and-so was a lawyer, so-and-so was a teacher, whatever, and you get around to introducing yourself, and my name's Rebecca Kettleson, and I stay at home with my kids. And just the feeling I got in the room, whether it was true or it was self-imposed on I did it myself, to myself, was just like, oh, you know, just like it was hard. It was really hard for me in those early years. I was watching other kids, and I really enjoyed that. It was a great way to make extra money too, since I was home with my kids anyway.
Sure.
But the whole time I would think, oh, well, I have a degree in this, and I have a degree in this, and I'm sitting here making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and like, what am I doing? Is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Should I be? And I don't regret a single moment of it now, but it was challenging in those early years for me to find who I was and be okay with it internally and not care what other people were thinking. And they probably weren't thinking it.
Probably not.
Probably not, but whether it was, like I said, self-imposed on like internally, or like things I read, you know, about how people perceive stay-at-home moms or whatever, who knows. It was a struggle, and now being on both sides of the spectrum, working as well, I would just say to any mom out there, just love who you are. And I have talked to so many moms, like you just said, no, I would never think that. I've talked to probably a million more moms than not that would ever judge another woman about what the path she takes with whether she decides to stay at home or work or a little bit of both or whatever. So I guess I would just say, don't worry about that like I did. It's time wasted.
I agree. And I think all of us do that, though. You know, it's built in. You know, if you walk in a room, you immediately feel like people are judging something about you, except it's really just you judging yourself on things. You're almost always wrong about who those people are, what their experience. How could you know when you walk in a room? You have no idea. I mean, I've been in the same room with you many times. I didn't know any of the things that you shared today. And I'm happy to know those things about you, and probably you'd be happy to learn those things about the people in the room. And really, that judgment, that is coming from inside. And so you're right, it's time wasted. And no one in the room benefits from you feeling like that.
Yeah.
They don't benefit. Even if they were judging you, what growth do they have for doing that? You don't benefit. So you're very right. You know, I just did some guest speaking at Clark University, where I played soccer. And I talked to the current team. 60 women play there. Okay, so we were talking about something that is very challenging for them currently. I just asked them, you know, like, let's work through something, just as an example. And one of them said public speaking. And I was like, what, this? Standing up here? And that is really, you know, a fear of most people, to stand in front of a crowd. And I asked them, what is it about public speaking that is hard, or what is the biggest challenge with that? And someone said judgment. And, you know, I'm a person that, like, if presented with something, I want to be able to give this solution. I want to be able to say, like, I've done that, here's what I've learned. I want to be the oracle, you know? And she said that, and I just said, I can't do anything about that for you, and neither can you. You cannot control what everybody in the crowd is thinking. But what you can do is you can get up and be true to yourself and share the things about you that are valuable to people. And some will take something from it and some won't, and you have to be okay with that. So
I think a lot of that comes with experience and old age, and
Yeah.
we're so wise now, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're so wise.
Yeah.
No, I think, you know what really helped me was volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
You meet so many people in the community. You, again, we circle back around to perspective. You learn like the challenges they're going through, and you think to yourself, oh yeah, I went through that, or I didn't, or they're just like me, just trying to do good things in the world. And so like volunteer really helped me, throw away that perspective that people were, thought less of me because I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And it gave me some fun things to do with adults because I was with kids so much during the day. So I would recommend volunteering, and I'm sure like everybody that's probably listening to this show right now probably volunteers in the community, but if you don't, it's such an amazing feeling to help other people, and it take your mind off of what's bugging you, and realize that if we all work together we can really do amazing things. So.
Well, the expectation is different too. If you're not being compensated for something, you go in with this, I'm going to give what I can. I'm going to give all I can. I'm going to give what I can, whatever is appropriate about me for this cause, I will do that, because someone's not saying, well, I'm going to compensate you for doing this. Suddenly you have to fill this sort of role, right? Yeah. So, and if there's collectively a group of people who all feel so good about showing up to help a cause, that's a great thing. So volunteering has led you to some things you're involved in now, right?
Yeah, it's kept me out of jail, that kind of.
Yeah, this is another benefit for volunteering.
The first volunteer thing I got involved in was the Sun Prairie Dream Park. There was an ad in the paper, back when there were ads in the paper, Sun Prairie Star. They were looking for somebody who had fundraising experience. And I had worked for Opera Theater St. Louis in development and done a lot of fundraising. And I'm like, I can do that. And that's something I can do on my computer at home when the kids are, asleep and stuff. So I got involved with that, and I'm still with it today, almost 20 years later. Very proud of that and all the stuff we've done there, and been part of the Exchange Club and the Sun Prairie Education Foundation and a lot of different organizations. Worked with the BID downtown, and just doing different things that help kids. I'm really passionate about kids and providing opportunities for them. My mom, again, single parent, we did not have a lot of money, and we certainly didn't have money for piano lessons or anything musical or extracurricular. So it's really important to me that kids that want to have exposure to something, or even if they don't know that they do, they still have the ability to explore different things. So I just like to be involved in a lot of things that help socioeconomically disadvantaged kids.
So I think your name is somewhat synonymous in the community with just volunteering and making things happen. So I remember when the Dream Park, there was some vandalism. And I think that's the first time, or close to the first time, I kind of knew who you were, because you were heading up fixing that, essentially. But even like through the Education Foundation and all of that, I think you're a person people know as somebody who can get things done just because of all that you've done for the community. So,
well, it's amazing.
So you're well known for that.
When you again have a community like Sun Prairie that really cares about people, and you connect the right people together, it's amazing what you can accomplish. It's not just me. It's just it's just me making good connections, maybe. And so I consider myself really fortunate. I know some amazing people in this town, you included, that just make incredible things happen. And they might not have a dollar to their name, but they're out there, just working hard, making just amazing things happen. Again, another reason why it's so great to volunteer in this community, because you meet some just beautiful people. My brother is a police officer in this town, and when he first started, as a patrol officer, he would see kind of like the worst things happening in town. And I'd say, you need to get out and volunteer because you're seeing too much of like the dark side. Right. Get out and like meet the great people in this community. And he did, and he got involved in church, and and it's just, it has really changed his perspective. So I'm really happy for him too in that respect. Volunteering's great.
And something else that I've talked about too, and I talk to my kids about this, or actually I talk to anybody who'll listen to me at any time, always. But one thing is, we talk about, changing the world, and that's daunting, to walk out and try to change the world. But if you just do something within your little pod. Maybe it's just you with your kids and your spouse or partner or whoever else is in your sort of immediate vicinity. You helping them, that helps change the world. And then if you can step outside of that and volunteer or do whatever you can do in your community, that helps change the world, because all of those lives are affected.
Yeah.
And then the community then can help change the city, which changes the state, the nation, and the world. So for people who really want to make a difference and they just have so much ambition to, impact something in a huge way, maybe you can do that. But if you just start small, look, you started with the Dream Park. Now look at all the things that you're involved in. You can do that. And I think sometimes people are in such a hurry. They want to take on the huge thing, and then maybe they can't impact that in a great way, so then it's discouraging. No, just impact the small things around you, and those things become big things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've shown
1000%.
that. So, okay, so is there anything, there's a lot of things we haven't talked about, but is there anything that you would like to say or add, maybe that we didn't touch on, for the people who might be watching this show?
Gosh, I don't know. We kind of went all around the gambit, didn't we?
I feel like we talked about a lot. Yeah.
I think so too. I just feel really blessed to be in the city of Sun Prairie. I grew up in a smaller town, Manitowoc area, Valders area. It was, there was the farm community and the camaraderie there. That was great. And but Sun Prairie has a uniqueness about it that I still to this day can't quite explain. The number of people that have created all these small little projects that some have grown into each other to make bigger projects. Some are still small, but they do amazing things. And I guess if someone were to say, well, what's there for me to volunteer or do? Well, it seems like we've done it all, or we've got all these great programs here. There's so many people out in Sun Prairie that that do need help. There are lots of ways, and if you aren't volunteering, like I mentioned before, and you want to know how to get involved, I would definitely reach out to the chamber. They've got lots of things. Heck, call me if you want to. At Sun Prairie Education Foundation, I can connect you with all kinds of different organizations that are looking for people, anything from the Sunshine Place to the Shelter from the Storm Ministries to the Dream Park to whatever. Come rake some leaves with your kids out at the Dream Park. It's amazing if you've never jumped in a pile
so
of
many leaves. Yeah.
That's about 8 feet tall and 20 feet long. It's quite an experience. So,
there are a lot of
it does a lot for your soul, and I just can't say enough about volunteering. It just and you don't have to volunteer 100 hours a month.
No.
2 hours a month or 10 hours a year. It does a lot for your soul.
Yeah. And it keeps you connected to people too, which is important. So and if you don't live in Sun Prairie, do those things in your community. This is all very
this is going national, right, this show?
Global. Global. Okay, so I really appreciate you coming on. This was great. It was so fun to learn more about you, and I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. So
of course, yeah.
Maybe come back again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
You can do that again. Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. We talked a lot today about perspective, so make sure you maintain your perspective, but don't be afraid to step into somebody else's to learn more about them or their experience. Stay resilient and keep showing up and pursue. Remember, you're not alone. You are in a club of 2 billion women around the world that are mothers, and we are here for you. Thank you. That was good.